I am very excited for this particular best-of-3 series of StarCraft 2. So, when these games were being played a couple of days ago, I was actually watching... Actually, no, it was yesterday. Maybe 2 days ago. Anyways, I was watching the stream live, and then halfway through game number 1, I realized, Lowko, what are you doing? You may very well be able to get your hands on these replays. So I decided to turn off the stream. It was a very difficult thing to do, okay? I had to, like, hit the X in the top right-hand corner of my browser. It was not easy, but I managed to get it done. So, very excited to find out exactly what ended up going down between these two pro gamers. As in the top left-hand corner, in game number 1 of today's best-of-3 series, we have Maru. His opponent, in the opposite corner, with the red Zerg drones, he goes by the name of Serral. Serral versus Maru. They faced off against each other once again. In case you're unfamiliar, Maru has been dominating the South Korean StarCraft 2 scene for the better part of a decade. Serral maybe not quite as long, but he has been dominating the StarCraft 2 scene outside of South Korea for quite a few years at this point as well. And interestingly enough, historically, they haven't really played against each other all too often. So whenever they do, I'm always very excited for it. And you know what? From what I saw, this particular match actually is exciting. There have been a few encounters in the past where the games are really not that great. Like, it's one of those overhyped matches, you know, where... yeah, a lot of people are looking forward to it for several, well, I guess in the first case that they really played against each other, because they kept dodging each other in premier tournaments. The first time they really played against each other, it was overhyped for like 2, maybe 3 years. And ultimately they did face, it wasn't really that great. And yeah, ever since then, a few people have been disappointed, but from what I saw of this first game of the series, this particular match does deliver. I watched up until a point, and this is a small spoiler, I suppose, for this match. But I watched up until a point where Serral unironically used Microbial Shroud to kill Liberators. Now that was my cue to shut down the stream. So we'll figure out together exactly what ended up going down here. Because that was weird. Microbial Shroud is definitely, yeah, the worst spell in all of StarCraft 2. And we don't, yeah, really very frequently see it being used. Especially not at this level of StarCraft 2. We most commonly see it being used. Ooh, nice little bit of body blocking there with the Reaper. Not allowing anything to be morphed in. We most commonly see Microbial Shroud on the Infestor being used whenever, like, Diamond League players make their first Infestors and then accidentally misclick the hotkey, you know? They mean to fungal growth and they get the Microbial going instead. Gigantic blunders actually here from Serral. Lovely control, of course, by Maru, but losing 2 drones is not the way you want to start a match like this. Okay. This is, by the way, a bunch of command centers on the back it is. So Maru going for a quick triple Reaper start and then transitions into 2 additional CCs. We should be seeing the Stimpak upgrade coming up right now with the first 100 gas on the side of the Terran. He's busy microing right over here. Doesn't really want to lose any of those units. But that is the logical progression. There we go. Stimpak coming up. Overlord is going to scout out exactly what's going on inside of the main base. Serral's looking right here for the timing of a potential third, as he does now see that third command center, and he also finishes up link speed. Tries his very best to get the wraparound on these Reapers. A couple of the links right there already splitting themselves off to try and go for the surround, so this bad boy cannot escape. And ultimately, a little bit of revenge right there for those lost drones. Now, this is a bit of a tricky spawn location here for Maru. Overlord, by the way, does live. Nope, never mind. This is a bit of a tricky spawn location for Maru. You have no control over where those add-ons appear, so they always appear on the same side of all of those Terran structures. If Maru would have done this exact same opener from the bottom of the map, those add-ons would have not been nearly as exposed, like losing, for example, the Stimpak upgrade at this point. Would basically be the end of any sort of follow-up attack. Now, luckily here for Maru, Serral did not go for a quick Baneling Nest or whatever, but honestly, I wouldn't have minded seeing a Baneling Nest in like, you know, 6 Banelings or so, just to blow up the tech lab real quick. That'd be kind of fun. I guess it's only 5 Banes, actually. But yeah, not something we see currently in the meta of SC2. Okay, so 1-1 upgrades here on the back of this for Maru. Serral, in the meantime, prioritizing droning here for the time being. So he's all the way up to 50 workers when these finish. which is not bad whatsoever. Now lately, Maru has been playing a relatively passive style of Terran versus Zerg. Serral, I mean, I don't want to say he's avoiding the late game, but it does seem to me that he is trying his best to prevent the games from going the distance. So if I were to, make a bet over here, I think that Maru is probably going to be playing this relatively passively. And Serral will probably try to actively end the game before it can really go past, like, I don't know, maybe minute 15 to 20 or so. That seems to be the moment where Zerg players don't necessarily enjoy the game as much anymore. I think that Baneling nerf is hitting them pretty hard, and they've been trying to find a way to get around it. Now, one thing Serral has been doing, and I've highlighted this in previous casts already, but he's been going for a lot of, like, quick hives. He's been going for roaches and then into Banelings eventually. But this time around, we have, I guess, after those 2 worker losses early on, we just have a very standard Zerg opener. So, +1/+1 upgrades here. This does mean that the Baneling speed is going to be very late, but he's not going into any roach play or anything like that. Okay. Maru does have a very good opportunity to go for an attack right now if he wants to. Yeah, he's got 22 Marines and the Medivacs are finishing up. Combat shields, Stimpack, +1/+1 upgrades. All of it is done. This is right at the time that the Baneling nest finishes, so there's definitely not going to be any... definitely not going to be any Baneling speed here anytime soon. Grabbing a few of these reinforcing Marines is really quite nice, though. I think Maru should go. Yeah. I mean, he's just wandering around the map. Probably respecting Serral, maybe a little too much here. Making the assumption that Serral would be well protected against an attack like this, and I think he should be fine. But if Maru would have gone right away, like 30 seconds earlier or so, I think he could have actually done quite a bit of damage. So Serral getting away with murder here for now. Jimmy on the watchtower also does not get to live for, well, very long. God. Is that his spine? What did those Zerglings do to him? A couple of the Lings right here trying to hide against the rocks, but a bit overly ambitious. Okay. 4th command center. About halfway done. +2/+2 started up, but not as quickly as they could have been. Baneling speed now halfway done, and this is going to make life much easier for the Zerg. Any bio attack, any infantry-based attack that Terran can go for is very difficult to hold without any sort of Baneling speed. And generally speaking, as soon as the Baneling speed finishes, life becomes a lot easier for the Zerg. Maru not really going for that tempo-based style though, right? So the way in which we, for example, see Clem winning a lot of his games of Terran versus Zerg is by constantly being aggressive. So he will scan on the left side, kill a bunch of creep tumors, scan on the right side, kill a bunch of creep tumors, and then eventually try to outspeed the opponent, right? Now, Maru is definitely not playing a slow game, as you can see right here with the APM counter. But there's no denying that he's not going for that same strategy. He's trying to carve a bit of a path on one side of the map, but he's not doing that extreme multitasking that Clem is very well known for. Okay. That Baneling, that Widowmine already died. But on his way out, apparently still managed to take down a bunch of units. 4th command center is also not going to be denied by the Zerg. So, yeah, Maru playing this safely, right? Not really taking a whole lot of risks. The problem is, of course, when you go for that extreme multitasking, you can accidentally mess up, right? You can just lose a bunch of your troops for free because you're trying to engage on creep against roly-poly Banelings in 2 areas at once. It's very easy to accidentally slip up and lose 30 supply worth of stuff. And Maru doesn't really need to take any of those chances. 4 or 5 SCVs here do fall, but the planetary finishes, and that's really the main goal right here for Maru. Okay. One change we've seen quite a bit in the late game over the last couple of months is we do have now Serral transitioning towards Hydras. No Lurker Den or anything like that here, no. One thing we've seen quite a bit is Terrans steering away from that Ghost Mech army. So a lot of Terrans like to stick around on Marines for a lot longer nowadays and mix in a lot of Liberators and Ghosts. It's a very powerful unit composition, but it's a bit different than what we used to see. Now, as long as it's just Hydraling Bane, though, really no reason for Maru to make any ghosts. Nice detonations. A little bit of friendly fire over there, too, but doing an excellent job just pushing back all of these units, picking up only the Marines there, trying to get those Banelings to detonate on the Marauders. Push on the left side of the map. Yeah, a lot of low HP medevacs. Probably don't want to be too ambitious there. Infestation Pit is going to finish up momentarily. Queen's in the main base, waiting for a potential medevac flyby. Looks like Maru was trying to kill a base in the middle of the map. But there's no expansion taken there just yet. Alright. Excellent movement here by Maru. Lovely work. I guess a lot of Terran players just feel compelled to try and just end the game, you know? Like, they play very aggressively, especially against guys like, for example, Serral. But Maru doesn't really like doing that too much. More than happy to play Serral straight up in a macro match. I think it's an excellent plan. So, here's indeed those starports coming down. That is starport number 2 and 3. Liberators are already building 2 at a time. We've got ourselves the Ghost Academy right now on the production tab too, so that one's relatively late, but then the starports are relatively early. As long as Serral does not show any spellcasters, lurkers, brute lords, ultralisk, any of that sort of stuff, ghosts are nice. He's starting up a couple right now in case it's going to be like a big lurker transition all of a sudden, but you really don't need a lot of ghosts at this point in the game. If it's just Hydraling Bane, why bother with ghosts? Maybe a couple is a nice idea. Just in case Zerg makes that very quick tech transition that they are capable of. Okay, Serral trying to break through this spot, but Maru just happily camping here at the perimeter of the creep, trying to create a chokehold on this base for the last couple of minutes. +3/+3, just about to finish up. Few seconds away from that being done right now. Queen's pulled away from the main base once again. Fight in the middle of the map also going decently well for now, it seems, for Serral. But he is desperately trying to break through all of this. Liberators now sieged up. They don't have their ranged upgrade yet. Looks like Serral ultimately does manage to break out of this position. Plus, he actually did clean up all of those units in the middle of the map too. Maybe one of the medevacs did go home, but I don't think the rest managed to make it out. Okay. Fusion Core. A little late. Would have liked to see it a bit sooner. Because when we're going for, triple starport, the Fusion Core probably should be done as well. Maru, by the way, not really focusing as heavily anymore on that mass command center style, or at the very least not as quickly. I feel like most Terran players in the current meta, whenever they get to that maxed out state, they get to 200 supply, they instantly drop down half a dozen command centers, but not really the case here for Maru. I mean, he only has about like 6 or 7 of them in total. Which I know may sound ironic if you haven't watched a lot of StarCraft 2 over the last year, but these days it's pretty common for Terrans to go all the way up to about a dozen. Okay. Infestors, coming up. A ranged upgrade for Liberators, coming up. +3 for mechanical units, also researching right now. Adrenal glands just about to finish up, so we have all the late game upgrades here. Apparently that's now finally triggering Serral to go for a bit of a counterattack. It looks like he's carving a bit of a path through that Terran base. Going back home right now to try and save the hatchery, but that's not going to happen. This hatch falls, but there's plenty of other minerals that can still be harvested. Plus, this is a base that, you can just remake relatively easily. Oh, trying to go after the Infestor. He does grab it with the Marauder. Great target firing right there by Maru, who's now using this squad over here to distract the Zerg. Was going for an attack here up north. Serral, once again, trying to secure this area on the map, but he hasn't actually done a great job respreading the creep. Banelings do detonate, but not quite as much damage done there. At the same time, those Widow Mines, well, they also ended up dealing a bunch of friendly fire. Liberator Ghost. Yeah, now that both Vipers and Infestors are out, it makes sense to try and get some EMPs landed on those units. But you can see that the backbone of the army here is still just a good old Marine. I actually think the Caduceus reactor would be a great follow-up here too. Now there is an Infestor here. Oh, Fungal Growth! Lovely work right there by Serral. In the meantime, we do have a counterattack here too with Zerglings that have Adrenal Glands and +2 melee. Serral does break out of this position a second time. He's actually done quite a bit of damage on the other end of the map too. And this is not quite what we see very frequently at the 15-minute mark in the current meta, where Terrans currently are kind of broke, right? Like, they don't have a lot of minerals. And then suddenly, those orbital comments, they really get into effect, and suddenly Terran has like 4,000 minerals in the bank. This is not Maru committing to that many orbitals. He's got, well, only 4. I think he's making another one over here, but it's really not that many. Bases on the left side as well as in the top right are being checked by the Zerg. Those are really the only 2 locations that Maru can expand to next. So I guess what Serral is saying is, yo, you can have 5 bases, but I'm never gonna allow you a 6th. Like, I'm gonna take as many bases as I can take, but I'm gonna use my mobility here to, yeah, make sure that you can't take any expansion past number 5. Now, in about 10 minutes time, these bases will be out. They will be fully out of minerals, especially if he decides to land some mules. So Maru does need to get a move on in the next couple minutes, because otherwise he will run out. Okay, good spotting right there on that Infestor. Not going around the corner that time around. At the same time, though, we do have a push over here on the left once more. Medevacs, Liberators, everything getting abducted. 4 SCVs fall, but the command center does live for now. Infestors, Vipers, Zerglings, Hydras, Banelings. That's basically the unit composition. Yeah, I guess ever since the beginning, Serral's never really been in a spot to get Lurkers going, or to really get, like, I don't know, Brute Lords or Ultralists going. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense to make that transition into a Terran army like this. Okay, Serral just given up on this base altogether. A little funky over here, since the Banelings are apparently blocking some of the pathing. Finally, yeah, Maru manages to kill that base. There's still an expansion, though, in the top right-hand corner. Maru trying to fly a command center on over in that direction now. Zerglings, yeah, they're gonna get shot at by those Liberators, but not without taking down, well, 19 SCVs right over here in total at the cost of, like, maybe a dozen Zerglings. Always a fun moment to me. It's blocked. Alright, Marines and Marauders do show up, and they're gonna be able to make short work of this. No cancel. Another 300 minerals down the drain. After all of this, though, look at the bank right now. Both players are maxed out. Maru is sitting at 69 workers. Nice. Nice. I didn't press my button. Dang it. I messed it up. Anyways, nice. That's better. He's sitting at 69 workers, now at 71, but he doesn't have that much of a bank. I should start over. Yeah, just do everything again. Take 2. Nice. Ah, awkward. Anyways, push over here in the center of the map. Maru will not be able to remax that quickly, but he is trying to secure his base in the top right-hand corner. For now, he needs to fly away again. Mostly because Maru has decided to go for the middle of the map as well as the expansion over here in the bottom left. Ooh, he's going to be able to kill that relatively easily. Just a small group of Marines and Marauders. No medevac backup or anything like that, so those heroes from the Terran Dominion decided to sacrifice themselves. The 2 Giga Chad upgrades coming up right now for the Terran. High-sec auto-tracking as well as building armor. Oh, this is the moment that I was referencing earlier. This is the moment where I decided to shut down the game. I think it's here. I was sort of watching on my second monitor for a little bit while, I think, editing some videos. So there's Microbial Shrouds going down. There it is. To prevent Liberator damage. Now, it's not something we very frequently see. So it reduces the Liberator's damage output by 50%. So Microbial Shroud, any units that air armies shoot at ground units in particular, gets reduced by 50%. In theory, it sounds like a pretty amazing ability. In actual practical scenarios, very rarely do you actually have a ground army as Zerg And the opponent is like, maybe against battlecruisers it would make sense, but against carriers, for example, you would never really want to, you would never really want to have that, because you want to focus on corruptors instead. So it's a very niche use case, but right there it was very cool. Okay. Game's looking pretty good right now for Serral though, but still, this is a very difficult Terran base to crack down. Plus, at the same time, he doesn't have that much money. Like, this expansion, very pricey. I think Maru will be more than happy to trade 11 SCVs and a planetary there to kill all of those Zerg units. Well, it's a difficult call to make for certain, but I don't think it will be the end of the world here for Maru. You can remake those SCVs relatively easily. It's funny, though, to see Terran not with this much money in the bank. Like, normally Terrans just have thousands of resources here, but Maru has very rarely been at that point. I think there may have been a few occasions where he had like 1,000 minerals, but for the most part, just slowly gobbling up the map to the best of his abilities. So, if we do have a full split map scenario, we'll actually hold that thought as Serral once again decides to push forward here. Blinding Cloud on a couple of his own Hydras, not quite optimal. Either the top right end base or the one in the bottom left should be the Terrans. If Serral can mine both of them out, that's going to be amazing for him. Another misrelied Infestor over here. Significant error. Oh, Liberator Ghost Army though, look at this force. EMP goes down. Mostly just to force these units back, but at the same time, yeah, just a Liberator again to protect against an entire mineral line. It's not going to be enough. 28 SCVs full. Drones reveal that there apparently is a base in the top right-hand corner because they're trying to return minerals to it. A lot of Zergling run-bys, though. Ooh. It kind of looked to me that Maru had crossed his T's and dotted his I's and that he was not really going to be able to take a lot of damage, but Serral has still found now 105 SCVs worth of damage. It's a lot. This base is not going to land until another scan. Serral once again going through the center of the map. He's retaking a bunch of those bases. When the Liberators arrive, the Zerg army has to run. And obviously, since they're air units, they're actually pretty quick to reposition. This is so good so far, though. So look at that. 531 average actions per minute by Serral so far throughout this game. 425 for Maru. Which is probably the more impressive number, if I'm being honest with you, because of the way that repeat rates work in StarCraft 2. Big Zergling counterattack, once again, straight through the center of the map. Furthermore, you also don't want to rapid-fire Stimpek, for example. Zerg's kind of like rapid-firing most things. Rapid-firing Stimpek would not be optimal. Zerglings right now breaking into the natural and the main base. Supply depots nowhere to be seen. I don't think they ever actually were built there because he started this game off 23 minutes ago with a triple Reaper start. Serral's having a lot of issues, though, securing either the bottom left or the top right. This expansion also, yeah, it's not been an easy one, and it's starting to run a little low. Base in the center, also not ideal. Maru has been doing an excellent job cutting Serral's supply lines off. So, ultimately, where are we at right now? 23 minutes, 40 seconds into the game. Both players pretty much maxed out. Serral has a ton of gas in the bank, but not a lot of minerals. Maru in a very similar situation too. He's remaking SCVs. When you're still making SCVs at minute 24, you know that something has been very action-packed. Keep in mind, of course, that these players, whilst they're playing the game, also don't have all the information that we have. They have to make educated guesses as far as like the amount of resources that the opponent has at this point. It's very tricky. Another Zergling counterattack here. One Liberator. Oh, he's got some backup this time around. Trying his very best. Fungal growth. Microbial shrouds. A couple of abductions here as well. My god, anti-armor missile goes down. We finally have a Raven in the late game army. Well, we had one. I completely missed it, but I've been calling for that for a long time. Yeah, no, that was not the fight you're looking for, though, Serral. Fighting into the choke point. Excellent positioning right there for Maru. That anti-armor missile from the Raven really helping out as well. Soften up a lot of these units. So, when a Liberator is shooting at a Hydra that has Microbial Shroud on top of it, how does it get calculated how much damage it takes if after that it also gets anti-armor miss? I don't know how it works. Somebody's gonna have to run the numbers. Hydralisk counterattack. All the way towards the 9 o'clock position of the map. Maru finally has managed to take out those bases that he's been trying to kill for a while already, but only a small group of units remain. Hydra's coming back home right now. Serral desperately trying to spend his resources. I think this hatchery may not be hotkeyed or something like that. Queens now, ooh, okay, also receive a little bit of a snipe. Banelings going after the ghosts. Maru does end up losing them, but he still has quite a few remaining because he was already pre-splitting. This hatchery will also get destroyed. Bottom left base, not retaken here. The only lifeline right now for the Zerg is the one in the top right-hand corner, and Maru just scouted it. Hydras, though, moving forward. No Microbial Shroud to help them out this time around, but he will be able to easily shut down all of those libs. Both players pretty much broke. Only a handful of SCVs really remain. And if it's up to those Hydras, there will be even less. Burrow right there on the Hydra to try and preserve it. Some long-distance mining going on over here. Drones also decided to burrow underground to try and stay alive a little bit longer. Liberators going towards what seems to be the main base, but there's really nothing for them to kill there. Can we do some abductions? I think some abductions, some parabombs might not be a bad idea. Serral snatches another bunch of Liberators out of the skies. I'll switch on over to the units tab so we can see exactly how much is actually available in this game. Ultimately, though, the army right here for our Terran is significantly better than that of the Zerg. Workers or not, income or not, this is still a military video game. And I think Maru may just have the better military here. Maybe not, though, if he decides to split up his units. There's the Ghost and the rest of that bio army showing up. It's Maru who obtains the victory in game number 1. So, that situation we just saw is not something I've seen before. So, I want to figure out whether or not the Microbial Shroud actually made a significant difference there, and whether or not the anti-armor missile makes a significant difference there. So, we'll do fully upgraded units. So Hydras here at +3/+3. We'll give them the range and the speed, even though that's irrelevant because I don't actually want them attacking. I'll give the Liberator also +3/+3 upgrades, even though I didn't know or I didn't check whether or not it was fully upgraded in that game we just watched. But I guess it doesn't matter. We'll give it advanced ballistics. Okay. So, standard situation. Hydras have 90 HP. It should reduce it, yes, to 3 HP. Reason being is that the Hydra has 90 HP. Every attack from the Liberator deals 90 damage when it's in ground mode. However, since the Hydralisk has 3 armor, we end up with 90 HP minus 90 damage plus 3 armor equals 3 HP, right? So, Liberator Siege is up. Hydra gets shot once. Will be at 3 HP. So, normal interaction. The Hydralisk will die in 2 hits. With Microbial Shroud, how exactly does that change? So Microbial Shroud reduces damage by 50%. So the way that this should work out is 90 damage minus 3 armor, which would be 87, which gets divided by 2, meaning that the Hydralisk should take 3 hits to kill. I think. 1, 2, 3. Yes. Okay. Now, the situation we just saw in the previous game, and this is where it gets very confusing, also included anti-armor missile. Now, I don't know at which point that gets calculated, because this reduces armor by 2. So first off, with +3, I guess it should not matter, because it's still going to take 2 hits. Yes, it's going to be reduced to 1 HP right there momentarily. Now we're gonna do anti-armor missile. And microbial shroud. It's still 3. Yes. So, very long story short, I don't think the anti-armor missile really added that much. It looked cool though. I guess it was really just the choke point that made a significant difference. Obviously though, the interaction we saw also had other units in the mix. Zerglings were affected by it. Obviously though, yeah, what I was looking at there is just the damage of the Liberator. But the Marines also do a lot of damage. So these Marines, by default, will deal 6 damage. With full upgrades, they will deal 9 damage per attack. Anti-armor missile would make them a little bit more powerful again. If the Zerg is also fully maxed out. Yeah. Game number 2. We find ourselves on the map Solaris. Wait, I messed up the scoreboard. Game number 2. We find ourselves on the map Solaris. Nobody noticed that I had to take 2... nobody noticed that. Alrighty. Is Maru going to make any significant changes? I actually like the way he was maneuvering that late game army. Very, very much. I feel like a lot of Terran players almost panic a little bit where they start being too aggressive. But Maru seemed calm and collected, despite the fact that he never really had a large bank. Right? So he did not focus on the mass command center style that he himself really popularized. I mean, he still ended up making about 10 command centers in that previous game. But it was certainly a different late game approach than what we see from other Terran players. So very cool. Yeah, very cool game number 1 right there from Maru. Now, what exactly should Serral do differently? Honestly, he made a couple of uncharacteristic errors. It started right at the very beginning of that game, when the first Reapers came across and he lost 2 drones. That is not what you're supposed to lose against your, very first aggression, right? His lair was pretty late on the back of that. I think it's mostly because he was trying to catch up economically, right? He didn't really get punished for it, but in general, it was not quite that clean. I also think Maru could have done he could have done a much better job defending his mineral lines later on into the game. So we saw loads of Zergling run-bys, like there was like a single Liberator set up to defend, but we saw loads of Zergling run-bys killing dozens upon dozens of SCVs. So looking at that previous game, Maru ended up winning. He played better overall, and I actually think there's a lot more room for improvement too in the way that he was playing it. So ultimately, Serral just needs to tidy up a little bit and, try to do the same thing, but better. Which is the worst situation to be in as a StarCraft player. When you know you're doing everything, for the most part, right, you just gotta do it slightly better. It is much nicer to think about, oh man, what I should do next game is not hit 17 supply blocks. Or, oh man, I would've won that game if I droned up a little bit quicker. When you have to do the same thing, but better, life becomes pretty frustrating. Double inject? Really? Okay. Double inject right here from Serral. That is not quite the norm. Generally speaking, we see 1 inject in the main base and then a creep tumor down on the low ground. Could be a misplay for sure. I don't think it was a 15-15 opener. Either way, it's not a huge deal, but he definitely needs to get some creep tumors going here momentarily. The advantage, obviously, of having... Yeah, look at this. So he's got a lot of larvae right now just chilling. He doesn't have the money here to spend it. The advantage, of course, though, is that you can ultimately make a few more drones at this point in the game, but all these follow-up pushes when your first tumor either is late or gets denied, they're just a little bit trickier to hold. Starport coming up. 3rd command center. Finishing at a appropriate time. Will we be seeing a tech lab? Not yet. Yeah, is Serral really the type of guy to go for a roach push after losing game number 1? Not really. Maru has a little bit of wiggle room right now in this particular series, so a Liberator should be safe. I mean, this is risky against a roach Zergling flood. But what are the odds of Serral really doing that? Third hatchery. It's gonna be scouted here, so good vision. For a little bit, Maru did seem a bit out of it. Obviously, he's been really good for a really long time, as we do have a big Zergling flood, by the way. It's a lot of links. Now, finally, drones are coming up. Serral taking a page out of Darkspook? This is like an odd amount of Zerglings. Well, it's an even amount of Zerglings, but it's odd to see this many Zerglings at this point in the game. Alright, well, the Hellions, in the meantime, are on the other side. Ooh, 2 of them almost get... Well, no, they end up getting surrounded. Gonna be a bunch of Zerglings once again, but... Or a bunch of SCV kills once again, but the thing is... That was a lot more Zerglings than what Serral ended up getting value for, right? So he made like 22 links there. Lost 18 of them for 2 Hellions, a bunch of Marines. Is this a good start? I'm not in love with it, but at the very least, the Hellions got off his back. For a little bit, Maru did seem like he was... a human. Like, we watched some of his games where he was just making uncharacteristic sloppy errors. Still very good, of course, but not quite to his previous level or up to his, well, own established standard. Maybe at the time he was just not feeling it, or didn't have a lot of time to practice, or he was dealing... Like, believe it or not, pro gamers are humans, okay? Sometimes humans have to deal with things in life. I know, it's a crazy concept. But yeah, Maru, at least in game number 1 here, looked incredible. Moving onwards. Some more aggression. Yeah, Maru has that rigidity in his play. Where you're looking at it and you're like, okay, what could the opponent have done? what should you be doing against this instead? I don't know. But he's never really in a hurry. You know, we see a lot of timing attacks where Terrans are like, okay, I'm going for a ton of units and I have to read right over. If I don't hit at the perfect moment, I'm gonna be in so much trouble. And he does play like that every once in a while, but it's not really his go-to approach. The Liberator. Not quite as well-rounded, I guess, as a benchy opener, but still strong. Plus, it makes life a bit easier. There's a siege tank available, but you don't have to be in the main base. There's no stalkers in this matchup. Go ahead, buddy. Ready to roll out! Go ahead, dude. Go ahead. Armory even coming up at the appropriate time. Can you believe it? Alright, we're gonna be able to go straight into 2-2. I mean, I joke, but how many games have I seen recently where the armory is just way too late? And we just see the Terran struggling getting the 2-2 and the 3-3 going. Not today. Not in this match anyways. 4th command center starting up already. So Maru happy to play the macro game once again. Hydralisk then on the back it is. Baneling speed is done. 1-1 upgrade's about halfway finished for the Zerg. Terran has already finished his. Where's the Banelings? I was gonna say, the whole reason for this for this opener right here for Serral is to get that Baneling speed going. Really? Okay, we add on 2 more. That's exactly what we needed. Trying to time it in such a way that he can clean this up perfectly. That was a brilliant cleanup. That Liberator still being obnoxious. Queen's no longer able to transfuse off creep. Yeah, ultimately they do end up... I guess Brenda's toe right there was on the creep. Ultimately, Serral does clean this up, but a lot more reinforcing Terran units have now shown up from the other side of the map. They're getting the jump. Banelings do spawn, but apparently, no, we don't need to move back. Excellent. Brilliant stuff. I feel like standing your ground against roly-poly Banelings is a very dangerous maneuver. It's the easiest thing to do, but at the same time also the hardest, you know? Because you have to do nothing. You just have to stand there. Trying to push forward. Creep tumors. Getting sniped in the middle of the map. +2 started up on the back it is too, but honestly, it's looking like Maru will not even need it. Zerglings in the meantime in the middle of the map, trying to grab a couple of those reinforcing units. Not quite enough though to really kill all of this. Okay. Now, during all of this, Serral only lost a very small amount of drones. There is another base as well in the middle of the map with the rich Vespian geyser. So this is one of those scenarios where it's really easy to overestimate the advantage that you have as Terran as well. Now that this Hydra's out. Oh, yeah, he still stands his ground. It's so funny. Very easy to panic against roly-poly Banes like that, but not quite the case. I feel like these queens have not been able to inject for a long time, but Maru ultimately is gonna be pushed back in the main at least, but in the meantime there's the second army, no cancel, hatchery gets destroyed. Widow Mines in the mix right now, first time that the Zerg sees the Widow Mines. Well, luckily for Serral there, a bunch of that friendly fire did go on top of that bio army. One thing that Serral's very good at is timing out his upgrades. So despite the fact that Maru was significantly ahead and his armory and everything was on time, he's actually now slightly behind as far as the upgrades go. Serral doing a little bit of that free solo climbing over here, you know, where he's currently holding onto the rocks by just his teeth. But he's still holding on, and he's still making opportunities for himself. But this is not looking good for him. Yeah, the top-level Zergs in general have looked a lot more human as of late. Widow Mines coming in once again. I'm not gonna burrow those. There are a couple just chilling. Medevacs as well on the bottom of the map. I genuinely believe that the reason why a lot of these Zerg players seem to be struggling a bit is just because of the Baneling HP reduction. I think the damage reduction would not have bothered them very much, other than not being able to two-shot probes anymore. Or one-shot probes, I guess, with +2 melee. Oh, sorry, lads. But the 5 HP reduction on the Banelings with the most recent balance patch has been very significant. Because we see hundreds of Banelings in games like this, and all of them just die a bit quicker. Okay. Great splits right there, though. Okay. Ghosts. Already hitting the battlefield. Notice that Serral is not really switching into anything else. Yeah, this is just to try and shut down spellcasters. So, slowly but surely, we're headed towards that Liberator Ghost army once again. Calm and collected, though. Not rushing it out. Getting himself a planetary here in the middle of the map. Using the choke points to his advantage. Lovely stuff. Yeah, Maru's playing phenomenally here. And this is exciting too, because it's not that passive style, you know? I've complained about that as well in previous casts, where there's quite a few Terran players currently at a very high level who have no intention of winning the game before minute 30. And they just sort of sit there, and then they sit there, and then they sit there. I cast a game on Solaris, actually, between Cure and Rainer. And that was probably the most passive game from Terran that I've seen in a long time. This is a really cool style to see. That was a Terran mech game, so it was a little different. As Maru once again gets shut down over here in the top left, but he's getting some work done over at the bottom of the map. Moving forward, using that multitasking. Both players getting up to, well, 400 plus actions per minute. Look at that. Beautiful. Beautiful. That fungal? Okay, well, ultimately, yeah, quite a few of these Marines still end up going down, but Maru's already pre-split a lot of the times. So it's not like we really see that much going down here. Infestors also did lose 1 range on their fungal growth, which may also be a reason why we see a lot more Infestors getting taken down like that. Oh, good abductions here. Now, one thing to note, this particular series is from the Masters Coliseum. It's a tournament organized by the Chinese StarCraft 2 organizers, SU-Boy. I think it's like $44,000 on the line. It's very significant. Plus, in early February, there is IEM Katowice, which is like $500,000 in tournament earnings, right? So you can bet your ass that these players will be practicing hard to try and get just a little slice of that prize money, if possible, right? Preferably the biggest slice, if they have any say in the matter. Okay. Pushing forward once again. Serral trying to create a sandwich right here on this Terran army. So many ghosts in the mix, though, and ghosts deal 20 damage right here to those Hydras. Since they are light units, yeah, Hydras by themselves don't really do that much. Fusion cores coming up. Starports added into the mix as well. In the previous game, the fusion core was much later than this, but I feel like the starports were much earlier. Maru is not really going into Liberators yet, but it's on the horizon. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is that maybe over the last couple months, in a few of the games that I've casted, Maru looked a lot more like a mortal, but maybe he was just taking it easy, knowing that early 2024, he was gonna have to dial it in, you know? If you don't have a tournament on the horizon, or you know it's still several months away, yeah, may as well take it easy. And obviously, whenever there are any Maru games that I can cast, I will usually go ahead and check them out, because there's not that many in the first place. So maybe I just happened to catch him while he was just not playing that much. I mean, I'm just thinking out loud here, obviously. I don't really know. Alright, we're once again trying to go for the lucky fungal growth strategy, but missile turret set up over here. That's a detector. He should see that. Unless... Ooh, okay. Well, that's a misplay. Significant error right there by Serral. I mean, obviously he's playing fast, but he might need to play a little bit quicker still. Once again, though, this army... Oh, the Infestor. Oh, if it would have been able to land a fungal there, it could have been massive. Liberators get abducted. Fungal! That Infestor could have fungled a little bit... Yeah, a little bit earlier, I think, if it would have stepped forward. But Maru manages to backpedal. Get back to safety. Now we are going for the command centers, though. So maybe in the previous game, we didn't rush them out as quickly. How many are we on right now? 5? Yeah, with a bunch more. +3 coming up. High-sec auto-tracking, building armor, all of it is finishing. We have a similar situation as what we saw on Hard Lead. Maru trying to land a command center on top of that hatchery. Not going to happen. Oh, quite a few ghosts, though. Get caught over there. Maru backing up once again to the safety of the high ground. God, these guys are so quick. Banelings. Serral has got some wiggle room here. Yep, he's got some money. Planetary goes down. EMPing his own Liberators. That's the strategy. Okay. Trying to open up more attack paths over here. +1 air weapons coming up right now for Maru. He's got a command center all the way in the bottom right as well that has not been dealt with. Maru is going to start taking care of some of these outer bases from the Zerg. Big Zerg counterattack. Okay. Yeah, these Zerg counterattacks are lethal. So the previous game we saw over 100 SCVs going down to random Zergling timings. Or not even timings, just random Zergling pushes. This does seem to be a map, though, where it's significantly harder for Zerg to make similar moves like that. Another thing that's lacking, though, here for Serral, as he once again is starting to kill a lot of SCVs. I say that. Backing up to the planetary. There's not a lot of creep. Like, there are some tumors. I would love to see those spreading around. Obviously, that's just an APM limitation, which sounds hilarious, because the man's playing at, well, 529-ish average actions per minute over the course of this match. So basically what I'm saying is that 10 buttons a second, yeah, we need to see 12. Now, StarCraft 2 is obviously a game of priorities. But you can tell that there's always still more to do, right? Even when you're playing this quick. It's all about prioritizing what you want to be doing now. And Serral apparently believes that this is the moment for him to try and overwhelm this Terran army. He does know about that base. Now, I'm sorry, Mr. Liberator, but the detectors are just about to pop out. It's gonna be painful. And... oh, well, the Liberators apparently decided to unsiege. Yep, okay. Well, that does nothing, but it looks cool. Maybe cool for the thumbnail of this video, who knows? The most insignificant fungal, but it looked huge. Oh, well, you know what? Mr. Infestor somehow still lives. I don't know how he did that. Oh, never mind. He died. Oh yeah, I think about thumbnails all the time. Anyways, that's the little image, right? That you click on if you want to watch a YouTube video. It can be kind of difficult, guys, to come up with spicy thumbnails. Dude, the Liberator count is getting out of control again. Yeah, we're up to 12. 12 Liberators, 15 Ghosts. Now, what do you do to counter this army? Right? There's a lot of choke points on this map. So I don't really see a good opportunity here for Serral to fight this with Hydraling Bane Viper. Corruptors aren't really an option. Hydras seem mediocre at best. Like, all of this harassment that he's doing is good. He is slowing down the progression here of the Terran. But ultimately, there's really no way around it. Maru is gonna get to his ultimate force. And he is there at this point. His economy is still off the charts. Sure, he's lost a bunch of workers. Sure, he had to replace some of his command centers, but he's got plenty of those. Serral's best opportunity, I believe, at this point, is to try and mine out his entire side of the map plus one additional base. And that was also not easily done on Solaris, as we do have the Banelings trying to roll through. Quite a bit of damage over there. Fungal growth coming in from the side as well. Ghosts end up taking a ton of damage, but they activate their cloaking ability, and there's no detection available anymore. GG. Maru obtains the victory, 2-0. Maru obtains the victory, 2-0 over Serral by absolutely dominating him.